Hi, we're group 18.3, and we're covering Columbia Association governance clarification. My name is Annabelle Liang.
My name is David Wu.
I'm Sophie Su, and Theory's not here today, I think.
Yeah.
So the Columbia Association, or CA, is the largest community association in Maryland, and it serves about 100,000 residents and manages many community facilities and programs. Annually, it has a budget of over $90 million, and the organization is led by a president and a board of directors who are elected by residents. So the issue is in April of this year, three elected board members were removed after an ethics investigation, and this raised an important question: who has the authority to remove elected representatives, the board itself, or the residents who elected them?
Okay. Getting into some of like the governance structure of CA. So it's governed by like three groups of documents. So one of them is the first one is the charter, the second one is the bylaws, and then the third one is kind of like a cluster of documents. So it's the deed agreement and declaration of covenants, easements, charges, and liens. Um, so altogether, these documents, kind of in general, they establish like the organizational structure, responsibilities, and the decision-making process that runs in CA. So the charter establishes some things like the nonprofit status and its unaffiliation with things like political or legislative things for CA. And the document also defines membership structure, corporate powers, and operational authority, including its ability to manage resources and also to receive funding. And the bylaws establish procedures for CA's governance, including the existence of board of directors meetings, voting requirements, committees, and other internal operations. And it outlines requirements for annual and special meetings, procedures, certain thresholds, and also record keeping. And these rules provide the framework for how the board conducts business to oversee Columbia Association operations. And the final cluster of documents, so these establish CA's authority over its property, facilities, and financial operations, including the board's ability to assess annual charges on properties within Columbia based on its value. And these funds also support Columbia Association's facilities and services in the community.
Current issues and concerns. There are some issues with the current governance structure of the Columbia Association, one of which is its unclear classification of its board members. Currently, the governing documents don't explicitly define whether board members or are employees or independently elected representatives. The current governance structure also doesn't contain clear removal processes. As mentioned before, in April 2026, three board members were removed after an ethics investigation. Overturning a public election via board vote raised significant legal and fairness questions. There's also a lack of consistent governance standards. Existing rules lack clear mechanisms for handling disputes involving elected members, and a clearer framework is required to handle disputes and maintain consistency.
With Lex
Um,
or Lex page.
yeah. So, to clarify, the board of directors members are not employees for the following reasons. First, they are elected by residents, not hired through an employment process. Also, they serve in a governance role and don't perform daily employee duties. And furthermore, they receive compensation rather than wages and are subject to separate accountability and removal processes. However, currently the association's governing documents do not clearly distinguish this, and this lack of clarity creates confusion and is why clearer frameworks are necessary.
Here is our proposal. First, we need to clarify that board of directors members are not employees. We have to formally define elected board members as non-employee public representatives, distinct from standard staff, replace standard corporate HR firing with a formal multi-step process, prevent political weaponization by requiring a supermajority vote rather than a simple board authority to overturn an election, and allow voters to trigger a special recall election via petition to confirm or reject a member's removal. Second, we need to identify and fix loopholes in the bylaws. We should define ethics violations, clearly list qualifying offenses to prevent removing members over healthy dissent, require a special election within a set time frame, such as 60 days to fill vacancies rather than hand-picking successors, and codify the panel's roles as strictly advisory and fact-finding, keeping final decision-making power with the board or voters. Thank you for listening.